Hey, we are back and we are ready to do some story problems involving graphing lines. So here we go. We have example 3 in an entertainment application. It states a video club charges $8 to join and $1.25 for each DVD that is rented. The linear equation is y equals 1.25x plus 8, which represents the amount of money Y spent after renting X DVDs. Graph the equation by first identifying the slope and the Y-intercept. So let's first, what do we have to do? We have to graph. We have to graph the equation, and then we have to identify the slope and the Y-intercept. Got it. Okay, let's talk about this equation. This equation is y equals 1.25x plus 8. And this is pretty cool because it is already in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form. All right. So, yes. First, we have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Well, what we know is that the y-intercept is 8. So, yes, let's go ahead and write that down. The y-intercept is 8. So we're going to say this right here is the y-intercept. We're going to say b is equal to 8. And then the slope is the number right next to x, which is m equals 1.25. Perfect. Okay. So what do? We identified the slope and the y-intercept. We know that the y-intercept is 8. Okay. Now let's talk about what this slope is. This slope means that for every 1.25 units that it goes up, it's going to go over 1. So this is going to be kind of interesting because we are going to start with the y. We always start with the y-intercept, and then we're going to graph this slope. But this isn't our normal slope. It's involving a decimal, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but we can still do it. So here we go. We're going to graph the y-intercept first, which is at 8. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right there. There's the 8. I'm going to make a big blue circle right there. Okay. Now from here, we're going to go up 1.25 and then over 1. Now notice these are, I only kind of label 2s, but each one of these is only 1. So we're going to go up 1.25. And so this is 1. Now imagine this is split in half. 0.25 would probably be, you'd have to split this into fourths, right? Because 0.25 is the same thing as 1/4. So we're going to go up 1.25 and over 1. So it's going to be something like that. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to go up 1.25. So that would be up here. That would be 1, and then 0.25 would actually be at that 0.5. So split it in half and then little force here. I'm putting it into force, right? So if I go up 1, that's to this part, and then another 0.5 would be, oh, but I got to go over here, over 1, right? And then over 1. And there you have it. That is the equation. If you keep going up, so we would have to split this in to right here. We would have to go up to that halfway mark again, and then another 0.25, would make it at like 0.75 or the 3/4 part, and over 1 would be right there. And then this last bit right here, if we put this into force, then we go up 1, and then 0.5 would be here, and then over 1, which would be right here. Now this is nice because it's directly on where this meets. So what that tells me is that's actually a really, really great point to go off of. So instead of doing 1.25 over 1, what's easier is just from here to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a much easier slope. So from here, we can just go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. This is a wonderful, magnificent equation. picture of our line right there. And that is it. Right there. All done. Okay. On to the next problem. Check it out. Example 3. Here we go. Now, this is a problem where normally we'd have the pause dragon come and he would pause, but you know what? We're actually going to work this one out together because it's a little bit complicated, and I'm just going to go through it, and you guys can go through it too. So, I'm sorry, pause dragon, but we're not going to pause right now. Oh, I'm so sad. Oh, it's okay. You'll get over it. There will be plenty of more times to pause. Oh, okay. All right, so let's do this problem. It says a salesperson receives a weekly salary of $500 plus a commission of 5% for each sale. The total weekly pay is given by the equation y equals 0.05x plus 500. Graph the equation using the slope and the y-intercept. So we're going to graph this equation, y equals 0.05x plus 500. Well, first we have to state what the slope is and the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept is this number off to the side. It is 500. And the slope is equal to 0.05, and then it's going to go over 1 unit. Now, I don't know about you, but if we go ahead and try to graph that, and we go up 500 and then 0.05 units and then over 1, that's going to be super, super hard to graph. So what I'm thinking about is kind of going a different direction with this. We know that the y-intercept is 500, right? So this is going to be our y-intercept right there. Make it a little bigger. Can never get big enough. Okay, so we know that that is our y-intercept. I kind of want to draw off of what we did last section with the x-intercept. And I'm thinking that if we find the x-intercept and we plot that point, then we can just connect those two and then we have our line. So let's go ahead and find the x-intercept of this graph. The x-intercept, remember, whenever we're trying to find the x-intercept, y equals 0. Perfect. So we are just going to write our original equation, y equals 0.05x plus 500, and then put 0 in for y. So we put 0 in for y, and we get 0 equals 0.05x plus 500. Now we just need to solve it for x, and then we'll have what our x-intercept is. So we need to isolate it. We're going to have to get rid of this 500. The inverse operation would be subtracting. So we get negative 500 equals 0.05x. And then we are going to divide both sides by 0.05. You know, not too fun, but it's completely doable. I'm going to break out my long division. I know that my answer is going to be negative, right? So, because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. But I'm just going to write that, and I'm going to go over here to the side. 500 divided by 0.05. Now, remember, whenever you're dividing by decimals, you can never divide by decimals. So we are going to change this. We're going to move this over 2 places. 1, 2. So now it's no longer a decimal. If we move it over 2 places here, we have to move it over 2 places here. 1, 2, and that's our new, and we add zeros. So what we're really doing is we're going, what would that be? 5 and 50,000. 50,000. 1, 2, 3. 5, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Divided by 5. All right, that's not bad. Because you just go 5 divided by 5. I mean, 5 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. No remainder. Then we drop these zeros. And then 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so what that means is that negative 500 divided by 0.05 is negative 10,000. That is our x-intercept. Okay, so our x-intercept is equal to, what is it equal to? It's equal to negative 10,000, or the point of that would be negative 10,000, and remember, y is 0. So let's just go ahead and graph that point on our graph. So right here, here is negative 10,000. Right here we have our sales, we have our salary, right here. So there we have it. There's our y-intercept, and there's our x-intercept. The cool thing about this is we can actually find our slope, right? We're going up 500 units and over 10,000 units. So we can do that same thing again. Up 500 units over 10,000. would be right here. And then again, up 500 units over 10,000 units would be right there. And one last time, up 500 over 10,000. And there we have it. Now, whenever you're talking about sales, you're not really talking about negative numbers. So even though we graphed it and we found the x-intercept, that x-intercept really helped us find what the slope was. And so since this is a business, I'm only going to graph the part of the line that is on this side, because negative numbers are not, they just, it doesn't, well, it doesn't matter with this particular real life application. If we weren't doing a real life application and negative numbers mattered, then we would graph that line all the way through, but this one, it doesn't. So the last thing I want to do is make sure when you're doing these graphs, you label your x-axis and your y-axis. We're just going to put the title, I forgot, this is the cost of DVDs. There you go. And that is how you graph equations. Linear equations. All right, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.